And one of the biggest pieces of that, which lends itself beautifully to skill number 5, is active listening. So listening for triggers and cues from the student about what their values are and what their motivations are and what their mindsets are, so that you can align or help the student align their mindset with the behaviors that they want to model as a result of that. So listening to even the tone of voice that a student's coming at you with. Is it positive? Is it negative? Do they sound defeated? Do they sound uplifted? And how we can leverage that energy and potentially shift it to help get them where they want to be based on things that they've told us in the past.
And the way that the skill number 5 is framed, I'm just going to read it right from the document. It says, make connections between students' mindset plus behavior in hoping that it would lead to success. So the mindset and behavior, you're in tune with it. You can say, oh, based on this, but you're not just saying it based on your own perspective. You're saying it based on what's actually happening. And then the student is also in the conversation with you, so you're not reporting out to them. You're evaluating what's happening together. And because the whole point is you want the students to be aware of what those behaviors are and how they're contributing to their success or preventing them to move forward. So the action items that you create with the student, it's more relevant to them. But the listening skill, like Lauren said, that's the most important part, because sometimes what happens, if a student hasn't been engaged for a long time, sometimes, we begin to create, as coaches, we begin to create our own judgment around them, because we're like, oh, it's been so long that we haven't connected with them, and they always say this, they always say that, but they never do it. I think it's important for us as coaches to reevaluate how we are approaching the relationship with the students, regardless of them moving forward or not, because half of the time it actually impacts what we say and how we can best support them. So listening in a way that you're targeting that motion, that desire, that wanting that they have to succeed, and you're guiding them based on the tools that's given to us as coaches in order to help them move forward.
Mm-hmm. Right. To piggyback on what Deo just said, it's a lot of active listening and mapping on the part of Reboot coaches. So if a student's had success, let's say a student's mastered a project and they've come at it with a positive mindset, the next time you talk with them, they sound defeated, perhaps because they've gotten a not yet. How can you remind them of what they brought to the table before and link it to the behavior that came as a result of that mindset? So it takes a lot of reflecting and mirroring and picking out what the student might not necessarily see themselves and reminding them of the fact that they're capable. And that's where that celebration piece comes in a lot too, celebrating the little things and being that positive influence for them.
Because a lot of times in coaching, sometimes we feel like, oh, I just brought this up and it didn't even seem like it resonated with the student. Well, sometimes the students are just not aware of how some of those internal behavior actually impacts or affects their progress in a positive way. Mm-hmm. So the more we have to highlight some of this characteristic, and we have to be transparent with the students so they know that, oh, like my actual mindset is impacting my journey in a positive or a negative. Mm-hmm. The more that they're in tune with that, the better they will participate, but also be aware of how those behaviors are impacting them. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to find yourself not just presenting the information to them. You'll find that they begin to be more aware of it. This happened with one of my students. She started the program, and she had a lot of personal issues that was happening within her life that was really more internal. And the more she was open to discuss it, the better we worked on it, relating to the project, but it was still personal to her. But now, a year in the program, every time we connect on the phone, she's always bringing up how the internal is actually impacting her progress. And she's more attuned when she's falling off or when she's slacking, or when she's in tune when the positive impact is actually benefiting her in a positive way. So this skill is a very, very good skill to be able to implement and co-creating with the students as always.
Mm-hmm. Right. And naming what you're seeing for a student so that they can hear it out loud, like Deo said, it might not land right away, but it could be that a student is digesting that piece and understanding how it's part of their learning cycle.